1 more minute. We have our audience total. Just Smriti, can you please take the screenshots for sharing it around social media? Okay, thank you. So it's 6 and we are just starting. So are you ready for streaming on Facebook, Shrestha?
Yeah, getting ready. You can just start, I guess.
Okay. Then shall we start our program? Okay. Namaste everyone. I'm Ashmita Manandhar Shrestha from Shrestha and moderator for today's meetup. And a very warm welcome to everyone in this Meetup 23 with the theme Tokenomics. This Meetup 23 is organized by Shrestha, Arumson Company and Blockchain Foundation Nepal and supported by Ecosystem Support Program and Ethereum Foundation Initiative, CSIT Association of Nepal, Digital Notice, Prime IT Club, and ASCOL IT Club. And talking about Shrestha, Shrestha is a blockchain company in Nepal that specializes in developing blockchain-based products as well as consulting about blockchain technology through various blockchain sessions, technical series, as well as blockchain meetups like this one. Meanwhile, Blockchain Foundation Nepal is a not-for-profit community that aims to create a blockchain ecosystem by providing and supporting blockchain enthusiasts and blockchain innovations in Nepal. Likewise, the Ecosystem Support Program is a branch of the Ethereum Foundation focused on supporting projects and entities with greater Ethereum community in order to promote the success and growth of the ecosystem. Similarly, our next supportive partner, Digital Media Notice, is a premier media agency offering a hub of touch-not media services for blockchain technology-related platforms in India. And CSIT Association of Nepal is a not-profit social organization of CSIT students that acts as a bridge between the faculty students and the IT industries in Nepal. And Prime IT Club is a student IT club dedicated to empowering IT knowledge. And lastly, ASCOL IT Club is a group of tech enthusiast students from Amrit campus who strive to learn and share the latest technology. And now let's just move to our Meetup Tokenomics. The main mission of our Meetup is to focus on the projects being carried out to create the microeconomics principles and the models that drive tokens, currencies, and the initiatives that support them. And to highlight the initiation as well as to get proper knowledge from the industry expert, Shrestha has seen the Blockchain Meetup 23 to be around these premises, and we'll also keep the floor open for a healthy discussion at the end of the event. And before starting the event, I just want to go through the rules for the meetup, just for the flow of the meetup. We have separated 15 minutes for each speakers, and if you have any queries, please write them down in the chat box below, which I'll discuss it at the end of the event. And we are also going live through our Facebook page, which will be also shared by our supportive partners page, and we shall be collecting the questions from their comments too. So without further ado, let's start our meetup with our first speaker, Shaila Agha. Ms. Agha is the director at Grassroots Economics. She is an ocean-loving global citizen trained in economics and disruptive fintech systems. She has a keen interest in transformative stories and recapturing heritage through cultural conservation. Her love and passion for economic justice, wealth balance, and reconciliation led her to leading with the grassroots economics. And with this, I just want to welcome Shaila. The floor is yours. You can take over now.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who's participating and everyone who's here. Welcome. Yeah, I think you gave a really good introduction. I don't think I have to repeat anything, so I'll just jump right in. Today I'm here to talk to you about community inclusion currency that is launched by Grassroots Economics here in Kenya. And I'll be taking you through the tokenomics of it, introducing it to you, understanding how we use it, and yeah, just answering some of your questions about it. So, well, traditional economics and finance systems have failed majority of the population of the world. And this is because they don't really take into account the ills of society: systematic poverty, discrimination, colonialism, corruption, nepotism, you name it. None of these factors are actually considered in any of our monetary policies. So community inclusion currency is basically attempting to disrupt this completely. And we're aiming to completely disrupt the financial and economic systems by putting the power back into the hands of the community using simple USSD technology, which is easy to use, accessible. In Kenya, we have digital wallets called M-Pesa already. So the communities are very used to using it. They understand digital currencies and digital wallets. And using this as a medium of exchange with no transaction cost, where our competitors, M-Pesa, actually do have transaction costs, and backing this community inclusion currency with their own goods and services makes complementary currencies something that can really bootstrap an economy. Another thing, a beautiful thing about community inclusion currencies is that it promotes territorial development in that it creates resources and potential outlets that didn't exist before. And it's essentially a network that solely promotes the development model for the businesses that accept its currencies. So it's really great if you want to target it to, let's say, refugee camps or camps that, or areas that just have this chronic issue of lack of capital or credit. And this is an example of a placard that maybe one of our vendors would have. Our two main telco providers are Airtel or Safaricom, and these are the two codes that people would be using their USSD. Now remember, the phone doesn't have to have internet. People don't even have to have a phone, actually. All they have to have is this sort of unique phone line that they can put, like a SIM card that they can put into any phone. And then they'd be able to register using these short codes. 50 Sarafu, which is our network token, would then be put into the line, onto the wallet. And once they complete their registration by giving us their location, their type of business, their age, their certain data, then we can give them an extra 50. And for every extra person that they register on the system, they get another extra 50 as well. Now, what problem are we solving? In Kenya, we have a huge cash crunch, apologies. Traditional economics, like I mentioned, has never been fair, especially to economies like ours. And let's be honest, basic economics, regular economics just rewards capitalism, so people who sell scarce resources for high prices to starving communities because of the theory of supply and demand. And we just don't understand that, for instance, in Kenya now, the average cost of lending is it can go up to about 250%. And this is also because there's a lot of predatory digital lending apps, and also M-Pesa, which is widely used by almost every single person in the community, now also offers loans on that as well. And now because there is a cash crunch, people are forced to do this. And now as a result, we have almost 15 million people who are blacklisted on CRB, and only in 2021, 4.6 million blacklisted. So they're just therefore banned from accessing financial instruments. And what is this saying to the people? That they don't have a fighting chance of even accessing credit or trying to have a livelihood. So what are the interventions that exist today? We usually have aid coming in through humanitarian partners like Red Cross and WFP, but at Grassroots Economics, we kind of want to reinvent the whole cash transfer program and instead use it as a catalyst, in communities to develop trade and create their own medium of exchange that can boost the economy. So now a difference between the community inclusion currency and traditional aid models is with the CICs, we actually saw a 5x more than traditional aid multiplier effect in just 3 months of trade. And I'm going to repeat that, a 5x multiplier effect. So at the same amount of money, of cash, which is finite, put into a community for 3 months would move around 5 times more. So you see, this kind of bootstraps the local economy. It localizes trade. It keeps it in the system. And like I mentioned before, it kind of makes it so that it's regionally boosting that business model, because it's being accepted in that community. So let's say it would be difficult to go and buy some imported good with that. Instead, you would kind of be unlocking all these resources that are just like dead resources because people didn't have cash. So for instance, let's say someone needed to fix a house and maybe your neighbor has the skill to do that, but you don't have the money to pay him in that. But now with the CIC, you have the CIC and you can just convince him and be like, look, I don't have any money, but I'm going to give you the CIC. It's a digital voucher. And I'm going to give you that for fixing my house. And tomorrow, if you come by, I'm going to make dinner and you can buy that with the CIC itself. So it's kind of unlocking all these things that weren't happening because people didn't have cash. It's also like got really low barriers to entry. Like I mentioned, you only have to have a SIM card. You don't even have to have a phone because you can always borrow someone's phone, and there's no internet use or anything. So it's just the USSD cost. So the case for CICs, like I mentioned, it's obviously going to increase economic activity like 5 times in 3 months. So you can imagine it only increases by more. And of course, improved quality of life in places where there just is no cash. You're giving people an option to continue using these resources and services from people, even though they don't have the Kenya shilling. It boosts entrepreneurship as well. There's more turnover, and we can actually see that. We have a dashboard, which I'll show you on the next slide, which we can disaggregate by spend type, by gender, by region. So it's easy to like look and see exactly where it's being spent. It's also shock proof because like in Kenya, we also have this issue where during an election period, the Kenya shilling kind of just goes crazy. A lot of people aren't spending, a lot of people are saving their money. So there's even an additional cash crunch. Even in the time of the pandemic, we had a very big issue. There just was no disposable income. A lot of people lost their jobs. So at least with the CICs, there's no reliance on like these traditional systems and monetary systems, which have quite often crashed. And yeah, like I mentioned as well, the data generated can be packaged and sold to donor organizations who are very keen and interested in understanding what exactly is going on in this system. So for impact investors, the metrics that we can show them is, like I said, the turnover, the entrepreneurship, reduction in debt, increase in livelihoods, increase in spending, increase in better nutrition, etc. And all this is backed by, obviously, the network of people who are accepting Sarafu, which is our network token, the technology behind it, which is all open source, and actual people and actual goods. I'm going to take you through a step-by-step guide on how you can also create your own voucher. So I've spoken a little bit about Sarafu, which is our network token. But now when we go into communities, we want to encourage them to create their own voucher. Sorry, not token, their own voucher. And this voucher will be redeemable for their goods and services. So the first step would be community sensitization. We would go in and talk to like community leaders, people in the community who are already, trying to make some kind of changes. So volunteers, community mobilizers, we call them. And then we would do resource mapping exercises and needs assessments where, you'd be surprised how many people they have services and goods that they just didn't know that they could offer, because there was always the issue of money. People in my community don't have the money to do this. Well, maybe if there was CICs instead, which are more available and then can be used and traded freely, then maybe someone would choose to go and get their hair done more often. Maybe someone would choose to get swimming lessons, you know? So there's all these extra things in the communities that are just stagnating and not happening because people don't have money. So change the narrative and all these things open up, and there's all these extra things that you can spend your sarafu or your own voucher on. We also emphasize learning through games. So it's a very complicated system, very basic in its purest form when the user is using it. But behind that is a lot of deep economic systems. We have like a lot of licenses and agreements. And how do we take this to a community that maybe majority of people are actually illiterate? If not illiterate, they still don't really understand economics. So how do we simplify economics and finance systems? So we go in and we teach them through games. We play this game with beans where we make the voucher into a little bean. We do a mock marketplace. And at the end of the day, we show people how easy it would be to just, you know, barter trade and use your beans to get different services. And then it's also like a way of making them realize that, you know, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a community inclusion currency. So hoarding all those beans to yourself just makes you have a bunch of beans in the end, instead of actually you having a bunch of, you know, goods and services that you can purchase with these beans.
Shaila,
So
I just want to interrupt you because we
sorry.
can see the only same slide. So can you please move the slide?
Sure. It's the step-by-step guide, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same one. So sorry.
Yeah, okay then. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And yeah, also yeah, so we finish with the games and make them really understand it, and make them understand these very complex economic and finance systems through these games, and make them understand as well that hoarding these vouchers actually will not do any good to them. And then we do an audit of their system, of their business. Some of them, it's the first time that they've ever actually looked at their monthly turnover, their weekly turnover. It's the first time they've actually understood that maybe 5 people in this community can provide me with every single thing that we needed. And also sometimes it's also just like that spark for them to understand that they can produce all these things, you know. Like for instance, in one community, we set up like a coconut oil press, and before they had just been buying oil, regular vegetable oil, and we just, you know, had to show them, look, these are the resources you have, these are the needs you have, why don't you create the oil and then sell it in the community currency instead of just importing it from somewhere else and where you need money. So we're essentially kind of showing them that you don't really need money for the basic essential stuff. And then we do like this endorsement stuff. So we work with a lot of communities that have these table banking systems or groups, savings and loan groups. And we love working with them because they're already self-governed. They're kind of already taking steps toward their empowerment, and majority of them are women. So we love working with them. It's also easier for conflict mitigation because obviously this is a new system. Maybe eventually like one of the members will be like, no, I'm not accepting any of the community currencies. So we get them to actually sign agreements, which will be one agreement for voucher creation, where we show them, look, you make you sell $100 worth of fish. We want 10% of that to be in community currency. So you can accept at least $10 a month in the community currency, knowing that you can use it for your transportation, to buy fishing nets from your neighbor, etc. So it's kind of like this thing we call braiding, where we just show the community, look, all these people here in your community can provide you with all the things you think you need money for. And yeah, and the service agreement too, because it's the service we offer them, they pay in the service token as well to us. And then minting, which I'll go over in another slide. And it's basically done by GE. We validate the group's commitments, audits, and endorsements, and we deploy a contract that's on a ledger that's visible to anyone. And the smart contract will then just hold all the relevant information about the voucher and will create the supply. Initial voucher distribution, greater community outreach. Obviously, now that you have like this pilot group that is working with this token, then it's very easy to go and talk to like the neighboring communities and say, look, if you want any of these services from these people, you can sign up, get 100 Sarafu, and at least start trading with them. And they have all the Sarafu or whichever voucher you want to create, and they can trade with you as well. And obviously long-term maintenance that we will work with from the tech side. And this is just an example of one of the outreach projects we did recently. This is 1 month ago in an area in the eastern Kenya, and it's really simple. There's no technology needed. It's no classrooms or workshops. This is literally a workshop where we were showing them the resource mapping. It can be done anywhere, even under a tree. Yeah, and this is the dashboard. As you can see, we have 60,000 registered users as of today nationwide. You can see we can disaggregate it by gender, by spend type. So you can see majority of the use, 355,000, is from labor and farm use. So we do a lot of projects in agroforestry, regenerative agriculture, just because we realize that, I mean, food is obviously a big issue. So if you can give people something to spend on their food, then it keeps going on and on and on. Every single person has to eat. And so far, since 2021 January, since the first pilot, we've had over $3 million in trade. And remember, this is all trade that may not have even happened, or may have been like done through a debt system, because that's a lot of these communities, that's usually what happens. I come to Ashmita and I say, look, I need to buy bread, but I don't have any money. So she writes it down on a little ledger, a paper pen, that you owe me this money. And then it's just stagnated. She can't grow her shop because she's got all these people having her debt. You have debt, everyone else has debt. And yeah, so what is the role of, well, I'm trying to stay away from the tokens. I'm just gonna call it vouchers. So what's the role of our vouchers? So it works as a medium of exchange. Here's a picture of Miriam. She has a shop. She has her Sarafu placard over there with her phone number. People can come and buy products from her store and use her community inclusion currency. And it's up to you and her to agree based on her limit, because she knows her limit. We've already done an audit and we've had this whole exchange with her. We've trained her to know that you can accept X amount every day for you to be okay, because you can use that back in the community. So if she's reached her limit, she's just going to be like, I'm sorry, I can't accept anymore. But if she still has on her limit, she'll be like, okay, I can accept 20 more, and then you can pay the rest in Kenya shillings. And what this does, it provides this much needed cushion to a lot of community members. It can also be used as a pre-order or an investment, because if someone, just like with regular vouchers, you can come and buy vouchers for my food for an entire week, and therefore you're kind of like having a loyalty system with me, where you will come to me and always use the vouchers with me again, you know. So it's really interesting. It's like you're giving the people the investment that they need, instead of them having to go for these predatory loaning digital apps and stuff. And then also for the humanitarian space, it's like I said, it's revolutionizing the cash transfer program. So now in times of crisis, it's easier for us to go and give aid to the communities. And also if we go in and create, let's say, an income generating activity, say like a farm or even like a well or something like that, and give that usage for the community currency, then it just keeps circulating in the community. Okay, here, just need to go to the slide. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just going to take you through, let's say if someone was to create their own voucher. So we'll call it Weza, okay? And you can create a voucher with a minimum of 3 characters to a maximum of 32. You pick your symbol, and then your voucher supply, let's say 4,000 of the Weza vouchers. You pick your unit of account and the unit of account and denomination. So say we have these motorcycles that transport people. I don't know what they call them in Nepal. They call them bodas here. So you could even denominate it in minutes, actually. So let's say a boda transport minute could be 1 Weza, or a liter of drinking water can be 1 Weza as well. And then the acceptance rate would just be 1 minute of boda transport or would be equivalent to, let's say, 20 liters of drinking water, or whichever is the equivalence of goods and services that can be obtained for that one weza. Now, the issuance will be, okay, there'll be a phone number that we create the vouchers and put into that, the specified amount, the 4,000 vouchers, which we've not just created out of nowhere. We've done the audit. You've been endorsed by your community that yes, this is the amount of whatever it is that you create. This is the amount of rides that you can give. This is the amount of water that you can provide to the people. And then we put it to that phone number, which you provide. And obviously there'll be an expiration. We do have this thing called the demurrage, where 2% of there's a 2% tax, which is on all of the wallets. And that happens to inactive accounts. And this 2% demurrage goes and it's taken out of the inactive accounts, and any account that is active in the system, which is say 2 or 3 transactions in a month, would then get credited with that. So it's kind of like a continuous burn-in input system. And yeah, then also the community can additionally choose to take that and put it into a separate account, where it could be like a social protection, it could be like that's their funeral fund, or like their fund for whatever, pension fund or something like that as well. And the founding members, who have all signed the voucher creation form and the service agreement form, will sign as official signatories and undertake to accept these vouchers as payments for goods and services, as specified under offering worth an amount of vouchers. So all this, I'm gonna put a link for this. This is our docs, and it's all in, one sec, it's all on our docs page. So it's all open source, everyone can see it. Okay. So yeah.
Sorry? Time, so can you please summarize it?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I'm just gonna talk about why we chose the blockchain which we're using right now. So it's a community blockchain. It's an EVM chain, and it's 1 token per opcode. So we don't have any variable gas costs. Then we wanted to use proof of authority, which we believe is just the best. We don't believe that POW is energy efficient. POS is just too capitalist. And we want to elect validators democratically. So we would pick people, let's say like humanitarian organizations like Kenya Red Cross, WFP, and they would be elected democratically, not based on how much money that they're bringing in. And it would be completely open source, no middlemen, no rent seekers. And we just want to avoid any kind of vendor lock-ins, no bidding in any kind of way as well. And yeah, basically, it's just, we chose using the blockchain because of scalability. Like, we just want to have bridges between chains, interoperability with multiple interfaces, you know, no kind of wallet lock-in in any kind of way. Obviously, the use of cryptographically signed proofs for validation is always amazing, especially for like impact data. Yeah, and also there's programmable contracts that I spoke about earlier. We have, for instance, we have swaps, tokens, and vouchers. Sorry, I had to go through that really fast. But yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shaila, for your wonderful presentation. Sorry, we are just out of the times and I didn't want to stop you, but just I have to.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your ideas of grassroots economics and about the tokenomics too. So now it's time for our next speaker. And our next speaker is Nat Robinson. Mr. Robinson is the co-founder and CEO of Leaf Global FinTech, a company providing the first live blockchain-based financial solution for refugees and migrants without smartphones. Leaf uses the seller-distributed ledger to provide fast, affordable, and secure cross-border transactions in 5 different countries around Africa, and with plans of expanding globally. So please allow me to welcome Mr. Nat Robinson. So Nat, you can take over now.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks everyone. Shaila, that was a fantastic presentation, and I know there's going to be a lot more time with the question and answers. Really love what you all are doing. All right, so let me get my slides going.
Yeah, we can view a screen.
Okay, great. And then, so I'm going to do sort of an overview of our company, a little bit of history of what we've done and where we've come. So all those entrepreneurs out there can learn from some of our mistakes and how we've approached the problem that we're working on and some of the technologies and solutions that we've been developing. I think a lot of similar themes in the non-smartphone enabled users. So it's a really exciting opportunity. But we started Leaf, which is a digital virtual wallet for predominantly refugees and migrants who've had to flee their country and carry cash across borders. So you can imagine how difficult that is if you need to quickly pick up, grab everything that you own and flee across a border. And in many cases, you'll just grab cash and carry cash. And that can be very difficult and expensive and dangerous to be carrying cash across borders. And we started to come up with ideas to help solve that problem for cross-border refugees and migrants who don't have access to financial services. So we designed Leaf, which is a global virtual wallet to help people to store and transport cash across borders. Also provides remittances, payments, and savings. And we've been able to do this by designing our wallet on the Stellar blockchain and created our own custom assets, which I'll get into, and tokenized local currency. We also leverage that similar USSD technology, so the non-smartphone based interface, which is very popular within East Africa, and certainly a large portion of the world that is unbanked and not using smartphones can access our wallets. I'll start kind of globally at this problem that we saw is that there's close to 2 billion people unbanked, but 2.4 billion people using basic phones, so non-smartphones. And actually in parts of Africa, East Africa, this number is increasing or continuing to stay stable, where smartphone penetration is not increasing. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but we saw this again as a big opportunity. And I will kind of globally beyond East Africa, there's a lot more within Africa in terms of remittances and cash-based remittances, people receiving money from friends and family abroad through Western Union or MoneyGram. It's still very much cash-based, and there's a lot of challenges with that. Security, costs, it's extremely expensive to receive funds in that manner. But then also within Africa, we notice a lot of this intra-Africa trade and cross-border trade, which is all still cash-based, and people are converting currencies and carrying cash across borders and getting robbed across the borders or having to pay bribes. Yet all of this great mobile technology is available to make this problem much less expensive and much safer. And this is only getting worse. I think certainly if you look at some of the conflict zones around the world, the refugee and migrant and environmental crisis, more people are on the move, more migrants are being forced to leave their homes and look for opportunities abroad and having to cross borders and multiple borders to get there. And so when we were looking for markets to start, we were focused on countries that were affected by displacement, but also had the mobile money or digital pay and pay out services. And this was about 60% of the conflict zones around the world had these payment services available, similar to M-Pesa and mobile money that you heard from before. And specifically within East Africa, on the border of Congo and Rwanda, we have about 2.6 million forcibly displaced people, and then another 5 million people who are cross-border traders, who are buying goods in one country, carrying them to another, and selling them, and then coming back home to their home country. Same challenge of being able to carry cash across borders. East Africa is also a spot in Kenya that I know well. I started and ran a microfinance company in Kenya for 7 years that was involved in agriculture. So very familiar with a lot of the challenges that grassroots economics is working on and addressing within Kenya. But we would finance assets and equipment for farmers to generate income and then pay off those loans, and those assets could work as collateral. But over this time, I was able to use a lot of technology to make the lives of those farmers a lot better, to reduce costs, to help them repay their loans. And that's what got me excited about the refugee crisis. And is there a way to bring technology and financial services to this customer base? Yeah, also a lawyer and really enjoy starting up companies, so happy to be a resource to talk to anyone afterwards. My co-founder, Tori, is a database architect. She's our blockchain expert, has spent 15 years also working with refugees and migrants in the US. And the rest of our team is comprised of fintech experts, as well as compliance, regulatory, and a number of refugees who work for us as well. So our wallet, this is how the process works. Our customers are able to create an account. They can, if they do have a smartphone, they can download our app and register on a smartphone. If they don't have the smartphone, they can use the USSD services to register. They're able to on-ramp or cash into the wallet through the telcos, through the mobile money networks, if that's M-Pesa or MTN, to load funds onto their wallet. And then that customer can cross that border safely without carrying cash, whereas mobile money does not cross borders very easily. And then once money's on the wallet, that customer can store, send, receive, make payments, buy airtime from that wallet in that new country, or they can just cash out. They can withdraw those funds into the next country, into that local currency, and use those funds in that next country, or make payments on their way. As I mentioned, we have two front ends, so the smartphone and non-smartphone based to be able to make these transactions, to send and receive, and the peer-to-peer transactions are free, leaf to leaf. And we're also working to develop a lending platform that we've just started to test. As we've built up transaction data on the phone, we're able to use that to make loans, and we're also excited to try to do that very affordably and lower interest loans through the wallet. So a lot of new products that are coming online, and happen to get into the more of the technical details of Leaf and why Stellar. And I think, again, similar themes to what Grassroots' approach to what blockchain and why to build on it. We selected Stellar because of their low transaction costs. It's basically free to do transactions on Stellar. They do really well on these cross-border transactions, so multiple currencies. That's really what they were designed for. There's no mining components, so there's no energy use. That also keeps the costs low, very quick, very secure. And I think we've been very, very happy so far with building on Stellar. I think another thing to look for in any blockchain is how developed their community is, and their open source community and developer community. So if you have problems, if you need support, if you're working on something similar to collaborate. Stellar until recently hadn't had quite that as much as Ethereum or some of the other larger networks and communities, but it's getting there. And so what we do when someone cashes in, say in Kenya, we mint and create a token that's pegged and backed 1-to-1 to that Kenya shilling currency. And then when that customer goes to Uganda and wants to convert their Kenya shillings token to their Ugandan shillings token, they can do that on our wallet. We do that conversion. It's free, it's cheap, it's quick. And then if that customer wants to exchange that Ugandan shillings token into Ugandan shillings, they can do that through the mobile money networks, and then we facilitate the exchange with Stellar. So we do that across all of our markets, and are continuing to add new countries and new pay and payout networks as we grow. Here's a very complicated slide about how that works in the back end. So the token side on being able to, once that fiat is converted, and then also the local currency or the currency flow. And we work with licensed financial institutions to help actually hold the physical cash or the fiat. And that's been really important to our model. And I think something that might resonate well in Nepal and with regulators there is that we're not using a volatile cryptocurrency. We're using essentially a stablecoin model and interfacing with licensed institutions to do that. So a lot of advantages, I think, to that structure. Quickly, this is more of a sort of business slide for a competitive landscape, or where we sit compared to MoneyGram and Western Union, much faster, cheaper, not cash-based, and then also with the telcos and mobile money providers, many of who don't, once you leave that country, you can't access your account again. And so having something that's mobile, that travels with you, that's very affordable, and you can still get those services similar to Western Union, MoneyGram, and your banks, but all from your wallet. Compliance is a big one for us. Moving money across borders attracts all kinds of regulatory concern. And so our approach has been to, again, work with these licensed banks or financial institutions, aggregators, those that are able to handle our cash that the regulators are comfortable with, We also do KYC, so know your customer and registration. So when someone registers for an account, they have to show a picture of their national ID, they have to do a selfie, and we check that against all international databases. So it's a very robust service to make sure that we're not funding terrorists or other bad players that regulators don't like. So that's all part of the process. And then we are a business, as a for-profit company. We take business models similar to money transfer and also to banks. So the money that's held on our wallets, we've been working with some partners to invest that or to make a yield on that, like a savings. And we're hoping that that return will help us lower those transaction costs for a customer, so it's almost free to use our wallet. But if someone wants to withdraw their funds, they pay a small, usually 2% fee, depending on which country they're going into. But because we're much lighter and smaller than larger financial institutions, we can keep our costs low and we can scale really quickly to new countries, which is exciting. So we've still fairly new, had a lot of starts and stops, but as entrepreneurs do. Right now we're live in 4 countries. We're about to add 2 more, hopefully this month, a little over 7,000 customers, done close to 100,000 transactions of about $400,000, and that's within the wallets and cross-border. We're working on a big banking partnership with EcoBank in Africa to expand beyond our current footprint, and have won some exciting awards as part of this UNICEF Innovation Fund, which is how we got connected to you all. Looking to do a lot of expansion this year across Africa, but also Latin America. We've spent some time looking at Southeast Asia and other markets too, but found that there's a lot of other players there, but we are excited to continue to explore new markets and just to serve refugees, migrants, cross-border traders, anyone carrying cash across borders that may have a difficult time doing that with the technology available. And I'll give a quick little history of sort of how we got there that may resonate with some of you. Not that we've made it at all or a success, but it's been kind of a fun story from where we started. We were actually a group of graduate students that were part of a business plan competition called the Holt Prize that was funded by the Clinton Foundation. And every year the Holt Prize comes up with a new theme, big social theme. And the year that we did it was the global refugee crisis and business models to address this. And we actually came up with a number of other different business ideas and did really well. My team, we didn't win the $1 million prize, but from that, a couple of those ideas, we kept working on this financial services, financial inclusion for refugees and migrants. And then slowly continued to win pitch competitions and get grants right as we were graduating. And a couple of our team members went full-time. A co-founder and I, after graduating, decided to continue to work on it. And it was great using the university resources to get started, to do beta testing, to get access to faculty, but also to chief developers, and really to get us to a point where we could beta test our concept and raise money to be able to deploy that into a full-scale business. So if you're looking to start a company, I think definitely leveraging the resources of university is a great approach. One also initiative that we've started last year, you may have been following the NFT craze globally. We had someone working with us who came up with a plan to support artists who are refugees in some of the camps that we're working in Rwanda, to take some of their both physical art and convert those and tokenize them into NFTs and then sell them on the market, but also to train a lot of the artists to do digital art and mint NFTs and sell those. And we've been able to connect and leverage our wallets to be able to facilitate those payments, but also to list the art and to market and sell them. And actually they've done fairly well. We've sold now about $1,000 worth of NFTs for I think 6 artists in Rwanda, which that money goes a very long way, and those payments are made directly to the Leaf wallet, so that artists can receive their funds from the global marketplace, from the art that they've created, and then withdraw those funds or cash those out into local currency. And we're continuing to build and develop that program and train more artists and get more people involved in the program. And also just started to do some loans for laptops and tablets and phones to help any of those artists who may not have access to a smartphone or to the technology to be able to create their art and to sell it. So a lot of different things, a lot of initiatives that we're working on this year, but I think happy to jump into questions. I wanted to not take up too much of your time, but as a high level, that's really what we're doing with Leaf and working on with our wallets, and yeah, looking forward to the Q&A, engaging with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Nat, for a wonderful presentation. We do have a question for you, and it's from Vivek Koela. And is Leaf custodial, non-custodial? Also, what is the difference between transferring my money via USDT or stablecoin than to transfer via Leaf? And is
Good, nice.
available in your borders? I think
Thanks for the question. A lot of them in there.
Yeah.
So we've taken the approach, and for those of you know the difference between custodial and non-custodial, we, because of our customer base, because we're deploying a new technology, blockchain is really new to our markets. We don't mention even blockchain up at the onset. This is just a stable, secure wallet. It's a newer technology that's low cost. I don't think there's a need to complicate it more than that. We don't explain the internet when you're trying to use, your mail, your Gmail. So we've made the decision to at least start by we're the custodians of the private keys. Customer can access their account, their wallet, similar to they would a mobile money wallet. So there's a PIN, passcode that's connected to a username, and if they lose that, we have similar methods of recovering that passcode. But we're the custodians of the private keys to be able to sign those transactions. That could change down the road. We just thought from a user experience, user interface, that this was a much easier, straightforward way to get started. And then if you're transferring your money via USDT or other stable coin, it's a similar concept. But we, in our markets in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, the on and off ramps are either non-existent for crypto or to buy USDT. So we essentially had to find a way to tokenize the local currency. So it's an equivalent. So very similar structure. And actually, we're talking to some partners in the US to be able to do US dollar, USDT, or USDC stable coins interoperate with our wallet. And then your third part was availability of borders. Is it borders or camps of refugees? Yeah, so we actually started Leaf in one of the refugee camps in Western Rwanda as a start. And that is on the border of Congo and Rwanda. So it's available there. It's available any country that we're operating, and anyone with a phone is able to download and register and use our app. So it's not like there's a box you have to check that you're a refugee to use our wallet, but we started designing and developing the service for refugees because we didn't see any other financial institution or bank there serving our customer base.
Okay, so thank you, Nat, for your answers. And we do have next question to Shaila. So can you please look after the question and answer it?
Yeah, sure. So the question was about how we value the exchange, how the value is exchanged between the two CICs and how that's handled. So you have to remember, it's not, the value is not based on fiat. The value is based on actual goods and services. So if one CIC is backed by, let's say, 20 liters of water, and another CIC is backed by lunches, then the two people exchanging will have to, just the same way someone on Binance can have the P2P exchange, and you can exchange Ethereum for whichever other token for whatever price that you both agree on. Because it's kind of like a barter trade. It's based on real goods and services. So it's just based on the value of one and the value of another. And it's just not pegged on fiat in any way. It's based on the actual goods and services. I hope I answered your question.
Thanks, Shaila. And we do have next question to Nat. So Nat, can you please read the question? I'll just send you a direct message.
Sure, yeah, for money laundering. And as a lawyer, I think we've been maybe a little too conservative in this approach and making sure that we're both compliant and responsible. But there's some fantastic technologies and services out there that will help with KYC, as I mentioned earlier, and money laundering. And so we use a company called Sum and Substance, or SumSub, for a lot of our AML and money laundering issues. And they're the ones that help us check the identities of our customers when they register. They also support some transaction monitoring for anti-money laundering. But there's a whole checklist and process that we're able to follow to reduce that. And also just the nature of our business, our transactions are predominantly below $100, and very few get even up to $500. And so those don't usually trigger any concerns with money laundering. But we do take it seriously. It is very important. But yeah, check out Sum and Substance, and I can put that in the chat if that's helpful. Or if you Google SumSub, they're really great service provider.
Thank you, Nat, for your answer. We do have a next question for our speaker, Shaila. So, Shaila, I have sent the message in your direct message. So, can you please answer it?
Hi, yeah, I'm just reading through it. Give me 1 second. So what's the process behind developing the credibility of Sarafu network token with the central bank? Because the central banks really don't like allowing transactions that go beyond their control and jurisdiction. How does this go together with taxation and legal audits and stuff? So yeah, that's a really great question. Actually, we ran into a little bit of trouble in the beginning, but actually the government cannot stop you from exchanging a tomato for an orange. So legally we weren't actually breaking or not doing anything that was not legal, because we're not pegging it on the Kenya shilling, we're pegging it based on value. So it's like, if you go back to barter trade, that's not illegal in any kind of way. And in terms of taxation, we have a few pilots right now where we're actually talking to the stakeholders and trying to understand if we can actually take, let's say, the 2% demurrage, or have another contract for another type of percentage to go into taxation. So it's an open conversation we're having with the government as well, and stakeholders. We also want to get into this regulatory sandbox that is available in the country right now, which would allow us to have these sort of difficult conversations. But as of now, it's kind of like they're not very extremely, I'd say they don't really understand it, so they can't really come after us, but there's no law that's actually being broken. And if, like I said, it's based on value. So if you wanted to braid my hair and I would, take care of your child for 2 hours, then that's up to us. It's based on value.
Yeah, thank you, Shaila. Your concept and our one of the blockchain product, Rahat, similarly coincides. We do have a blockchain-based, mobile-based, blockchain-based mobile-based system for the humanitarian aid, where we also use the tokens, which only have the value in our Rahat ecosystem. So thank you so much for your answer. And I just want to go through the chat box.
That's a good question too.
So
I can believe.
there's next question also.
Trust, right?
So yeah, that's a great question, Deepak. Well, basically we don't make anyone believe it. But what happens is people are in a crunch. People don't have money in these communities, so we're giving them a solution. So most of the time, there's not much convincing needed. It says, look, there's this thing which you can buy food with. You don't have money, so it's kind of like it convinces itself. And like I said, I mean, for us, we believe that POS systems and POW are just not what we want to do. We want to work with humanitarian people who don't want to keep changing gas fees or rent seeking. We don't want we don't want the profiteering organizations or profiteering people who are running nodes, to be the ones who are making the most money. Like it should be just democratically elected people running the nodes, and everybody keeps the fees at one flat rate. And the fees are just there to cover the the developer costs and the operations. It's not there to make money. It's just there to enable communities,
And we do have our questions from Vivek. So Can you just view the questions from the chat, which I have just mentioned now? So we have a question to Shaila that, so there are no liquidity in CICS. You can just use it for services or good. That is why we are referring it as a voucher. You can have your attention.
Yeah, sorry. No, yeah. So basically, the liquidity is what the community provides to them. I mean, to the voucher. Yeah.
So we do have next question. So we have a question from the Prajwal ji, and here is, could you, for both the speakers, could you please go over the consensus algorithm used in your blockchain systems? This question is for both of our speakers.
Sure, and I can include a link for Stellar, but they've got their own, the Stellar consensus mechanism, which is, it's these quorum slices. So it's a smaller group of validators that are on the network, and they're able to, validate transactions again much quicker. I think that the only concern anyone's ever had with Stellar is scale, is what happens when you get, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of transactions happening at once. And we have seen a little bit of, timeouts and transactions not going through, but there's also an interesting bidding concept to get transactions to go through, where if you're willing to pay a little bit more for transaction, you can get it to go through. So I'll include a link to follow more on the Stellar protocol if that's of interest.
Thank you, Nat. We are just end of our meetup, so I hope everyone enjoyed it well as we did before organizing this meetup. And our team would like to thank our distinguished guest speaker, Shaila, Agha, and Nat Robinson, who are also our UNICEF Venture Fund Fellows. And once again, thank you so much for your valuable time in our meetup. And we are equally thankful for all our audience for being here with us in this event, and hope to see you at our next events too. And for that, please stay connected with us through our social media platforms, which are mentioned below in the chat box. And for attending our next event, please do like and follow our ISOTES Facebook and LinkedIn posts. And we also post our events on meetup.com too. And these are the 3 places where we continuously create events and post your details for engagement. And also you can follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'll just post the link over the chat, and you can ask me about the blockchain technology further. And meanwhile, you can also suggest me about the topics on which you'd like to hear from us on our next meetup. And with this, I just want to wrap up today's meetup. Till then, have a great time. Stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy. Take care. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. See you soon in meetup.
Bye.